Hello and welcome back. I'm Rachel Camfield. I am so happy to be here with you. So, what I'm going to be sharing and talking about today is actually really good news, although it may not sound initially like great news. But I want you to just sit with and allow yourself to think about this, especially if this is the first time that you're hearing some of these words or some of these ideas. I just want to I want to invite you to let them land, to let them register as something that could potentially be very useful for you in your work, in your life, and in your living and loving. Okay, so today is about acknowledging, holding space for the reality of the truth that most of us are walking around with unprocessed distress. I'll say it one more time. And I have a sweet little friend over here and helper over here. So if you hear some colored pencils drawing, that's what's happening. So most of us are walking around with unprocessed distress. Distress to me are things that have happened, have occurred, were said, you witnessed, you were part of, that never, hold on real quick, distress that was never held or just addressed or noticed or named. Yes, I have a very sweet little coworker and I am proud of us for making these videos and these days together work. So I'm grateful, and I just moved to make things a little bit easier. So, unprocessed distress. This is something that hasn't been witnessed. That's basically it. And I imagine a few different things when I say unprocessed distress. I imagine that a therapist could help, a counselor could help, a coach could help, but I also imagine a really amazing family member could help, or a best friend or a dear trusted friend could help too. So unprocessed distress is within us. It is some of those misstored stories, the box on the shelf in the storage unit I talked about in the last video. And the distress itself is a part of this script that is operating and functioning and flowing. The script in my own life has been in my head just the way something is, or just the way I am, or just how it went. And pausing and having someone process that distress and that script with me has been the butterfly being let out of the box. I can fly free now. When I think about most people walking around with unprocessed distress, it makes me sad, but it also makes the world make a lot more sense to me. Because if people are functioning and showing up and just getting into their daily life with unprocessed distress, then their reactions and responses to things add up a little bit more. Like something happened and they are existing from that space and almost like stuck in that space. And I want to offer this because I am here for each individual human being's freedom, emotional liberation. So this is one of my notes that I wanted to read along with this. Distress patterns. I like to say the word script for that, like sometimes, but like a distress pattern. When you are in trouble, when you are troubled, and you just like kind of go into a certain place or an overdrive. Distress patterns tend to force their victim through a reenactment of the original hurt that caused the pattern. So I say this in my words as this script that is embedded and that is functioning and flowing forward takes you with it into this reenactment from the original place where it was embedded. And now you're in the pattern based on what caused the pattern. Thus, patterns are addictive in their actions. So, patterns, scripts, addictive, known, comfortable, repeat, replay, go into autopilot. There's not a lot of conscious, present thinking happening when the patterns and the scripts are at play. In addition, all addictions, including chemical addictions, operate only through recorded distress patterns. Okay, let's just breathe with that. The recorded stress patterns, the scripts, addictive in nature, addictive in knowing of self, they are operating. And I believe they can be rewritten. I believe with proper care and support, they can be rewritten. And that the rest of life can and gets to be the best of life. That the past doesn't have to keep writing our future. That we get to pick up the pen too. That this transformational work is a real, viable option on the other side of distress, that we don't have to stay in that distress. We don't have to keep repeating and perpetuating it. And so to go back to the beginning of how I said this might be the first time you've heard this, or this is a new thought that you're having, to just see the world through a lens of most of us are walking around with unprocessed distress, to bring us back and kind of bring us into a full circle here, to realize that no one else can handle someone else's unprocessed distress. That is theirs. That is their work. That is their path. But the one person that we have control over is ourselves. And if we notice that certain patterns continue to replay, certain loops are happening, the script is just on autopilot, that is an invitation. That is an invitation to work with this unprocessed distress and to be free. Thank you for tuning in.